Please be seated. When Martha asked me to speak today about stewardship, I said yes, without giving much thought to what I would speak to. So I had some work to do. And as I was thinking about my understanding of stewardship, another key term came to mind that, for me, makes a conversation about stewardship worthwhile. That other word is community. Specifically, I thought about this community, this congregation of St. George's, and I would like to talk a little bit about the concept of community before we get to stewardship. People feel close to God in many places. I don't know where you feel closest to God in your life, but for me, I feel closest to Him when I am in nature and experiencing parts of the natural world that He created. It's why I love to camp and hike as much as I do, and why I love going to various zoos where I get to see the diversity of life that God's creation has to offer. And when you spend lots of time thinking about nature, as I have, you come to the realization that the world is dangerous and full of challenges. What's more, if you really believe that God made the universe and the natural world, then for me, it follows that you must believe that the danger and challenge of the world is an intentional and necessary part of God's creation. Indeed, it is through that danger and challenge that the amazing diversity and enduring nature of life has emerged. The other thing you realize when studying nature is that we, as humans, have some significant disadvantages. We are slower, weaker, less agile, and less well protected than most other animals. Yet it is humans who have come to dominate and be the stewards of this planet. How did we do that? Certainly our intellect plays an important role, but even a truly brilliant human wouldn't last long alone. No. The central feature that propels us forward as a species is our unique ability to cooperate. And that ability to come together and work collaboratively for a common goal, purpose, and benefit is unique in the world and what helps us to survive and thrive in God's creation. We survive and thrive through community. It helped us before we developed our first tools. It helped us grow when we first came together as cities and nations. It brought the world forward in the Industrial Revolution and is what leads to the complex solutions to the problems that face us today. Every major step forward in human history is linked in some way to the development of new ways for us to cooperate and work together. Think of the most common inventions today, the computer mouse as an example. They're everywhere. The truth, though, is that no one single person on Earth likely knows the entire process of making this ubiquitous tool. Where do the raw materials come from, and how do we get at them? How do we purify and change them to make the base components? And how and why do the various components fit together as they do? I'm not sure anyone knows all of it. Indeed, it is our ability to bring our differences together, our ability to build community that makes us special and made in the image and likeness of God. When you look at the core message of Jesus, it is simply that we need to build bridges and form loving, resilient communities under God. Jesus knows that to be our best, we must travel through life together, and that bringing together diversity, different perspectives and fragments of knowledge, makes us stronger. When we are divided and fighting, we are weak and vulnerable. When we are together and in communion with each other, we thrive. What I have learned in this church is that Jesus' core message, our way forward in life and our path towards God, is through the development of true community. And I see that reflected here at St. George's. As most of you know, I was not born into St. George's. No, I came by way of marriage about 15 years ago. For the first part of my life, I was a parishioner at Mountain View United Church. When I arrived here, though, I found a different service and a very different feeling. Over the years, I am happy to say that this church has truly become my spiritual home. And I have seen firsthand how this community cares for each other. When people are sick, we visit them and care for them. When something special happens in their lives, we celebrate with them. Happily, we usually do this through cake. Because of that community, my boys think of this place as a second home. As I reflected on this topic, a story kept popping into my head that I think is emblematic. Before Liam, my youngest, went to school, he would often come to the church with Devon when she was doing the flowers. He loved this time. He got to hear John play the organ, he got to sit in his chair and eat snacks while watching DVDs, and he got to regularly visit Linda in the office. This one day, though, was special. When I got home from work and asked Liam about his day, he got a huge smile on his face and told me that when he was at church with Mummy, Linda asked him to come join her and go to Tim Hortons to do the coffee run. He was so excited that Linda was including him in this daily ritual and that he was now big enough to help out. The cookie he got on that trip probably played a role in his smile too. That is a life moment that Devon and I will always remember. And those things happen more often here than in many other places because of the caring community that exists. This congregation of St. George's is a true community who cares for each other and walks with each other through joy and through hurt. It's not perfect and needs help at times, but still, that is special. That is important. And it is why this church grows while so many others do not. And this community of St. George's, this congregation of St. George's is special and worth protecting and tending to. Because without this community of parishioners, we have no hope of making any kind of impact in the lives of others. Our ability to have an impact on the world and lives of others is directly proportional to the health of this community. And this is where stewardship comes in. Told you I'd get there. I learned my concept of stewardship through the scouting movement. I was a beaver, a cub, a scout, and I was a venture. Granted, a venture for a very short time. And as nerdy as this may sound, I loved every minute of it. And it played a huge role in shaping who I am and what my values are. When in Scouts, our leaders had a very clear definition of stewardship, which they pounded into our heads. And it goes something like this. We are borrowing, and we need to make sure that we leave what we borrow in better shape than when we found it, so that those who come after us will have it to enjoy and will take care of it as well. This congregation of St. George's exists today because throughout our history, the people of this church understood and applied that definition of stewardship. They took care of today and worked to ensure that this community would be here tomorrow. Bishop Walter's book does an excellent job of showing this as it takes us through our parish's history. And that perspective of stewardship, of tending for the future, is compelling for me. I see how my boys love and value this church. They have true friends here that they care about. This place has meaning for them, and I wanted to be here for them as they grow and, God willing, start families of their own. I want their kids to find a sense of home here as well. This is why Devon and I give our time and support to this congregation. We give what we can because this place is worth our commitment to it. This church is important to my family now and into the future. And it's important to me that this community continues so all of our children and grandchildren will have the opportunity to find a home here as well. I was invited to take on the role of warden during a time of significant change and transition at this church. It's a little interesting, I'm reprising the role a bit this morning. And I partially said yes to that ask in order to help that transition be successful and to help this community grow stronger through that change. During my time as warden, my concept of stewardship was on full display in Parish Corporation and Council as I talked regularly about sustainability. I asked if the decisions we were making were ones that would not just solve the issue of the day, but help this church continue to thrive and to grow. When we talked about new programs, I was worried whether this was something we could really do long term and what the new program would mean for our congregation. because our decisions today echo through the future. Today is our Joyful Giving campaign kickoff, and we are being asked to think what we are able to contribute in time, talent, and treasure to support this amazing community. As you reflect on what support you can give, I ask you to think not just about what you can give to support next year, but how what you give can strengthen this place for the future. And there are ways to support this church with a view to the long term, and I encourage you to learn and to think about those options. As I stand in front of you today, what I'm really hoping is we all think about what we may be able to do to help this place that we are borrowing become better than it was when we found it, and how we are ensuring that we contribute to the next 227 years of the life of this parish. And with that, I will end by saying, God bless this church and this congregation. Amen.